Welcome back into Talking Points. We have some breaking news as President-elect Donald Trump just announced that he is nominating former Congressman Sean Duffy of Wisconsin as Transportation Secretary. Duffy is also a Fox News contributor and Fox Business host.
Prior to joining the network, Duffy served nearly 9 years as a U.S. congressman representing the peoples of Wisconsin's 7th congressional district. In a statement released by the president-elect, he wrote, quote, Sean will use his experience and the relationships he built over many years in Congress to maintain and rebuild our nation's infrastructure and fulfill our mission of ushering in the golden age of travel, focused on safety, efficiency, and innovation, end quote. And the biggest picks from the president-elect last week centered around national security, Jake.
Trump has made several unconventional selections for Director of National Intelligence, Defense Secretary, and Homeland Security Secretary. And joining us now to discuss all of those is our panel. Market Share's co-anchor, Mike LaMorte. Welcome to the show, Mike.
And Talking Points analyst Ben Bascuk is also here with us. Ben, thank you so much for coming on.
Mike, so I want to start with you and talk about Tulsi Gabbard. Like we said, a lot of surprising picks across the board. Can you give us her bio?
Yeah, absolutely. Gabbard has an extensive resume, one without intelligence experience. As many political pundits were quick to point out, she's a veteran. Definitely served 2 decades in the military, deployed in Iraq with the National Guard. Definitely a lot of military experience from her there. She was the first Hindu and American Samoan elected to Congress, and she also served in the House Homeland Committee for 2 years. She, again, no real intelligence experience, though.
And the big controversy with her is that she went and met with the Syrian dictator leader Bashar al-Assad. How has she responded when criticized for that?
Well, she's doubled down. She's in multiple interviews, she's come out and said that she's going to be for the people. She thanked Trump for the appointment as well. A lot of politicians were quick to solidify her as an associate of Russia and things like that. An asset specifically. But she has repeatedly criticized the war in the Middle East. She said that the U.S. involvement, which many consider a wild claim, that the U.S. involvement kind of destabilized that region in its entirety because, again, of U.S. involvement. So she's definitely quick to criticize.
Jake, she also said that she wanted to solve the Russia-Ukraine war by using the spirit of aloha. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, an important note on that criticism. She's criticized every presidential administration about the Middle East, but she's sharply criticized Trump on that. And it is also important to note that she's not linked to the Kremlin with any evidence, but Russian state media calls her their girlfriend. They seem to love her, and it seems that they share the same worldview, apparently.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting here is that I don't even think we should have a candidate put forward who is sympathizing with Russia at this point, putting her in charge of this position. I mean, she's come out and blamed Ukraine, saying they have bioweapon labs in Ukraine. This is a public project that has been there to remediate diseases going forward. It has nothing to do with the military, and this was justified by Russia to invade Ukraine going forward.
Yeah, but I have to stop you there because you're saying that she sympathized with Russia. I think people are mistaking empathy with sympathy there. She's understanding why Russia had invaded Ukraine under the guise and the rumors of those biolabs. But again, she's doubled down on the aspect that she is for the American people. She's going to do her job to make sure that U.S. citizens are protected at the forefront. So again, there's a difference between empathy and sympathy, and I think that media organizations in its entirety have jumped on that aspect.
Mike, I think we do need to clarify real quick, though. This was a publicly funded project that the U.S. helped with to remediate
and maybe
diseases.
We shouldn't be putting somebody who sympathizes with Russia, who has repeatedly killed citizens and civilians in Ukraine.
Assad in Syria.
You could see
as well,
that she's sympathizing with the cause, but these are war criminals.
Let me show some folks. Let's move to another controversial cabinet pick. Let's take a look at what Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth had to say about women serving in combat.
You don't like women in combat?
No.
Why not?
I love women service members who contribute amazingly because everything about men and women serving together makes the situation more complicated, and complication in combat means casualties are worse.
We also learned that Hegseth was accused of sexual assault in 2017. His lawyer says that he paid her off as part of a settlement agreement. The lawyer also said that Hegseth was a victim of, quote, blackmail and, quote, false claims made by the woman, who has not yet been identified. She also filed a police report at the time, but no charges were filed against Hegseth. That controversy aside, do you believe that Hegseth is qualified to lead such a sprawling department like the Department of Defense?
I don't. This is a $780 billion department, vastly, funded by the government. If we put these tabloid headlines aside, these are allegations put forward, but these candidates on their own, if I'm the Democrats, the tabloid route is not the route I'm taking. The route I'm taking is these are unqualified individuals. There's no reason a Fox and Friends host should be running the Pentagon. This is a 1.3 million active duty troop facility and over 750,000 civilians. He has no experience in this organizational role in a regulatory agency. We have to give him credit. He was a service member. That should be honored. That should be respected. And I'm not discounting his military experience, but he has no role on that regulatory level.
And I'll correct the record. He's not a Fox and Friends co-host. He's a Fox and Friends weekend co-host.
Oh, forgive
just
me.
for the record.
Yes, Luke, sorry.
Mike, what's your response?
Well, I think you bring up good points. Again, no direct experience in this area, but to just call him a Fox and Friends weekend host, as you say, does no justice. We do need to recognize that he has extensive service of over 2 years, which he'll bring with him. But there's multiple support from Republican senators that have come out, like Tom Tills of North Carolina. He has a mixed reaction to it. He calls it interesting. He's looking forward to learn more about him. But that comment alone shows that the Senate is going to be taking these appointments seriously to verify that they are good for the position.
Well, and one last note on this: the Defense Department has yet to pass an audit in several years. Maybe having some outside leadership, whether from the curvy couch or not, will be able to clean things up over there.
Yeah, leadership from someone on an audit who's never managed a budget before.
All right.
So not so sure about that. And of course, also important to note, was a service member, pretty clearly a misogynist, talking about women in combat there. Anyway, let's move on. Trump is set to nominate South Dakota Governor Christy Gome as head of the Department of Homeland Security. Trump has some big plans for that department, confirming on Truth Social at 4:30 this morning that he will declare a national emergency and use the military to launch mass deportations of undocumented immigrants.
I'm not sure if the governor of South Dakota will be able to handle that. I don't know. She has no borders on either side of her state. It's South Dakota, not North Dakota. The most that she's had to manage is her dog Cricket, who she ended up putting down infamously, and talked about it in her memoir. Ben, why Kristi Gome for DHS?
Yeah, I think we need to not worry about the dog issue so much. I think there's bigger concerns here. I think
Cricket,
in general,
poor Cricket.
I think the problem with these candidates, again, it's not these tabloid issues. It's not the dog. It's the fact she's unqualified.
What about the goat?
Every single tribe in her state has come out against her and banned her from entering those tribal lands. This is an individual who has said that tribal kids have no hope because of cartel issues, because of immigration. She's going to be a spokesperson for Trump. She's going to be loyal to Trump. She's going to be on the networks for Trump when it comes to the border. Is she going to be an effective leader? I'm not so sure.
But I'm going to have to jump in here. I don't think it's appropriate to ask the question right now whether or not they are qualified for the position. Trump is
Why
making
not?
Because it's obvious these
Obviously, they're not qualified.
Exactly. They are not
Why
as
would you
qualified
hire
as they
someone?
should be. The reason Trump is making these controversial picks is because the American voter has been so tired of the way that 70 million American voters have been tired of the way that the government has been ran in these last few years, that he's picking candidates that he can count on to make changes.
That's true.
Whether or not that they are qualified, that has no bearing in this.
I don't think most voters were expecting to have people in there.
I think that Trump is tired
They're not
of
qualified.
picking people who might say no to him. That's the common denominator.
He's putting
lot of
loyal.
them.
And
He's
that's
putting
these
part of it
people
as
are
well.
just yes people.
Exactly. He's choosing loyalty right now over experience. Whether or not that's the right answer, we will see. And the Senate, of course, has to decide.
Guys, thank you very much. President-elect Donald Trump nominated a lot of close aides with his cabinet picks, including some